Great. Okay. So, hi everyone, and welcome to the bi-weekly ZKsync proposal review call. There have been some really exciting updates and news shared in the ZKsync ecosystem this week. If you've been on Twitter at all, you may have seen some of those announcements. We'll talk about those a little bit later. But first, we're gonna kick it off with our proposal updates as always. So since our last call, there have been two proposals that were successfully passed and executed on chain. This includes TPP 12, the ZKsync governance system infrastructure funding proposal, as well as TPP 11, ZKsync governance system infrastructure funding proposal, as well as TPP 12, the ZKnomics token staking pilot. So with these passed now, just a few quick notes on some next steps for each of them. So for GovInfra, some folks may have already seen this on the forum, or also already even on chain. There's a new TPP called TPP 13. This proposal came about because upon post-execution review of TPP 11, of all of the role assignments to make sure they were executed properly, it was discovered that one role assignment was unfortunately missing in the call data. So the GovInfra program is kind of stuck right now. So the TPP 13 is simply a proposal to assign that one additional minting role from the rate limiter to the child cap minter. It changes nothing about the program or just the general structure or anything about the proposal at all. It's just giving that one last role assignment so that the GovInfra program can launch officially. So yeah, you probably had seen, probably likely have seen a post on the forum already from yesterday. Here's the proposal, a link to the proposal on chain, as well as there's a post that the governance team put out earlier today explaining the situation in a little bit more detail, and also providing a few recommendations or things that we're going to change in the review process here. So you guys can go check that out there if you would like. Before I move on, are there any questions in regards to this piece for GovInfra? Great. Okay. Yeah. And yeah, here again, here's the proposal and the post on the forum. The next kind of just FYI update piece in regards to for staking, the other proposal that was executed and passed, the Tally team is in the process right now of conducting all of the necessary testing and preparations for the launch of the staking pilot. So they'll keep us updated on that. But yeah, just want to make sure that when it is launched, that it's launched really well. So taking the time to do all the necessary testing there. Great. Okay, then moving on to the proposals on chain. We already kind of talked about it. TPP 13. Voting will start for this one next Wednesday. So keep an eye out for that. Again, this one, there's nothing new, nothing crazy or fancy about this one. It's just the one role assignment. So reviewing it should be fairly simple, hopefully. And the other proposal that will likely be on chain, it's not on chain yet, but likely on chain maybe today, Alicia, is ZIP 14, the upgrade to the ZK token contract with the burn function.
I'm not a huge fan of promising timelines, but
Okay.
I would just say that if it's on chain in the next 4 days, then that will work out really well because then voting will open at the same time as the TPP, right?
Yes, correct. The voting, as a reminder, the voting delay for ZIPs is slightly shorter than it is for TPPs. So yeah, should line up fairly well.
Cool.
Great. Okay. So those were all of the proposal updates we have. Before we move on to some exciting ecosystem updates, any questions? Okay, great. Then we can move on to a few fun, exciting things that have been shared this week. You may have seen a few tweets from Alec Glukowski floating around over the weekend or over the past few days. We actually have Steven joining us today to help chat through a few of these points. The first one is the post that Ethereum is now the main capital hub of ZKsync. You may have seen it from Alex, but you may have also seen it from Vitalik, which is really cool. Which was posted over the weekend here. If you haven't read it yet, the kind of keynote here is that the Atlas upgrade that was announced a few weeks ago is essentially it enables such fast L2 L1 finality that ZKsync is able to use Ethereum's liquidity layer as its own. So you don't need a separate liquidity hub anymore, which is really cool. But Steven, I'll actually call on you or invite you up now to say a little bit more about this, and also if just to say a few words about what impact this has for builders in the ZKsync ecosystem, but also just in the L2, like what this means for the L2 ecosystem more broadly.
Yeah, sure. So very exciting weekend and week for ZKsync and for the Elastic Network. This first post that kind of kicked off the whole thing with was done by Alex and then obviously retweeted by Vitalik and whatnot. I think my internet's a little shaky, so I'll just stay off of camera for now. So basically what this is breaking down is that with all of the tech upgrades that Atlas brings to the table for ZKsync chains that upgrade to Atlas, which is going to be everyone, we're able to have near instantaneous interop between all ZKsync chains. So as a part of the Elastic Network, this will be basically seamless, which opens up a lot of really interesting use cases where you can have, users transmitting money or messages or whatever between Abstract and SoFun and ZKsync Era and Gravity and Lens and Memento, et cetera, near instantaneously. So this vision that we have always talked about is actually coming to reality, where one of the biggest problems in crypto has always been that there is this kind of siloed situation where every chain needs to build up their own DeFi ecosystem. Every chain is basically fighting every other chain, even in the same networks, for liquidity and users. So our vision with Interop and with Gateway and with Atlas actually enables this, is that every chain that grows the Elastic Network actually benefits every other chain in the Elastic Network, and users and liquidity can be freely shared between every single chain as a part of the Elastic Network. So I can see in the near future, once all of this is done, you're not really going to see like people talking about, oh, what's Era's TVL, DeFi TVL? What's Abstract's DeFi TVL? What's Gravity's DeFi TVL? Instead, you can have what is the Elastic Network's TVL as a whole, because every dollar on the Elastic Network can be seamlessly moved between every other chain. So that's super exciting on the L2 front. Now, for the L1 to L2, and why the Ethereum Foundation is excited and why Vitalik is excited, is typically for interop between L1 and L2, where it takes hours or days. With optimistic rollups, it takes 7 days for finality, which actually Vitalik just posted a tweet about, like, maybe we can lower that to 1 or 2 days, which doesn't really make a lot of sense, but it is what it is because it'll introduce security issues. But with our new Atlas infrastructure, we've been chatting with the Ethereum Foundation, and it looks like while it can't be instantaneous due to Ethereum finality, you have to have 12 confirmation blocks in order for Ethereum finality, we can lower the time between finality between L1 and L2 to roughly 10 minutes, 15 minutes max. So, and over time that can get shorter and shorter, especially as we've been chatting with the EF, if they can lower that time frame, basically we can get it down to less than 10 minutes, which that opens up a whole new world of activity for ZKsync and for L2s in general, where now you can tap directly into Ethereum's like DeFi liquidity, where if you have RWAs on Ethereum or you have just like large liquidity vaults on Ethereum, you can tap into it directly from any ZKsync chain that is using Atlas, and you can settle within 10 minutes. So that's something that's just like groundbreaking and kind of revolutionary. And we'll be putting out more updates and everything about that. But yeah, it's that's why the EF is super excited about it, because obviously the main bottleneck for Ethereum is that it's just always been so slow, and it's just been slow to finalize things. It's been hard to get liquidity on and off there into L2s, which is why you have these L2 wars where everyone comes up and they have to, build up their own liquidity reserves and they have to take from other people. But if you could just tap into Ethereum's liquidity directly, which is the largest in all of the crypto space, it just solves all those hurdles. So that's the main thesis of this, and that's why this is super exciting, and we're hyped to that the EF is happy about it as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Stephen, for going into some of the details there. This is crazy. It's like mind blowing. Also, you, Stephen, were also involved in the Ignite program. This essentially means like you would never need an Ignite program.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like the entire thesis of the Ignite program was turning ZKsync Era into the liquidity hub for the Elastic Network. We've always had this vision of what I just talked about with the L2 interop, where our thought process was, well, if we make ZKsync Era have like $1 billion in TVL, then once we have interop, any chain in the Elastic Network can just tap into that, right? So then it will be parked on Era, but then it can just seamlessly move throughout all of the Elastic Network, which is still happening, but we don't need to build that anymore, especially if you could just tap directly into Ethereum's liquidity. In that case, it's like you can save. Actually, Omar, if you pull up Omar's Twitter, he did a really good deep dive post into this post that Alex did about what the ramifications of this are for chains that are launching, but it also just on a Elastic Network kind of thing. It makes it's Ozar is his handle. Yeah. Oh yeah. Some
yes,
but
Twitter in this browser. I follow these people, I promise.
OZ, I think HAR maybe.
Yeah,
that's it. So basically it actually is super bullish for the Elastic Network in general, because it makes it so that this one, it's really good. It basically is like the hardest thing for new chains is getting this liquidity and solving the cold start problem of having users and liquidity. And it's like this chicken and egg problem where like users don't want to come unless there's liquidity, but like liquidity providers and you can't have liquidity without users, right? So it's like how do you get this? And by solving this, basically chains can launch, and they can, by launching, one, they get instant access to all users and liquidity on the Elastic Network, and then two, they can tap directly into Ethereum for liquidity and stuff like that. So it's just like it solves one of the biggest problems in crypto, which is this cold start problem for new chains, and then also this fragmented liquidity in users. So those two things just in and of itself are just like two golden problems that are fixed with Atlas and interop. So yeah, that's why it's super exciting. That's why Vitalik really likes it as well, because it's all about like credible neutrality and connecting Ethereum and growing Ethereum. I think that over the past few years, we've gotten into this thing, or over the past year or two, where it's like L2s are parasitic to Ethereum, but that was never the vision, right? The vision was always that L2s help scale Ethereum, and we've always remained true to that vision, and it's just nice to see it finally coming to like fruition. That's it. I could talk about this forever, obviously, but like, move on.
Yeah. No, this is like so crazy. Like, it's so crazy to me. I'm really excited also I'm sure those will be like a hot topic, talking with folks at Devconnect, and I'm so pumped.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool. We have Casa ZK too, so you guys can come through to that.
Can you share the link for that, Stephen, if you have it, and then I'll also include it. We have like a little thread on the forum for events. So yeah, I'll add it to that.
Let me see if I can pull it up. I'll look for it. If I can't, I'll DM it to you, and you can.
Yeah, no worries. Sounds good. Yeah, thank you so much, Stephen, for chatting or talking us through that.
Do you also want me to talk about the new token?
Yeah, so I'll like give a little intro, and then we can kind of just have an open discussion on it. Just because it's kind of fresh and new too. So I'm not sure if folks have seen it yet. But so the next bigger announcement or something you folks may have seen over the last few days was, or yesterday, I think it was posted, from Alex, this from governance to utility, the ZK token proposal. I'll share it here in the chat as well, so you folks can look at it there. But yeah, so there's a new post on the forum, kind of talking. It's like a proposed plan for expanding ZK token utility. And the plan pulls together like a few different elements that we've actually already been talking about in governance over the past few months. So this includes staking, this includes the addition to the burn function to the ZK token contract, but it also introduces a more kind of cohesive, expansive plan for what like a holistic tokenomics model could look like for ZKsync. The two main elements that it pulls into, and again, we don't have to go into the details here because it's also very new, but the kind of two key details that it's proposing is that value would accrue in two ways. So like one from on-chain interop fees for moving assets and messages across ZKsync and Permissionless, and the second would be like an off-chain enterprise licensing for advanced models used by banks and institutions. So yeah, I know it's kind of fresh, and I'm not sure who's had the chance to read it yet, but I'd be super curious to hear if anybody has had any reactions to this, or Stephen, if you wanted to add anything to talk a little bit more detail of this. This is yeah, just wanted to open up the discussion.
So I did like a quick like TLDR post on Twitter, because obviously Alex's post is pretty long, gets really into detail, but essentially the whole thing is this: we want to turn ZK from a pure governance token into this is my words, I say we're turning it into an ecosystem, but it's also turning into like a utility and governance token. So the thesis is super simple: it's earn revenue by the ZK token and use that to grow the ecosystem. There's two main ways that we're going to be doing that. One is through interop fees, which I just talked about, where Atlas unlocks basically this shared liquidity and shared user layer between every single chain in the Elastic network. Obviously, when chains are transacting between each other, we will be charging very small fees, but we'll be charging fees for all of those interactions, right? Because all of this will happen on Gateway. If you guys remember Gateway, when we launched Gateway is live. That is basically our settlement layer where every ZK chain is connected into Gateway, and then all interop happens there. So, and the main token for that is ZK. So on one level, every transaction that is happening on Gateway is being spent in ZK. So that's another like token, basically sync. And then the other way is that fees are generated. Those fees are going to be generated through all of that interop, not only from L2 to L2, but also L1 to L2, because we're facilitating all of that. So all of those fees will be collected, and they'll be sent to a new governance entity that will be created. And that governance entity will be basically collecting all of those fees, and then through an on-chain transparent process, we'll be buying back ZK. After it buys back ZK, there's basically three main areas that the ZK will go to. So one is like growing the ecosystem. So this is for protocol development and ecosystem initiatives through governance. The other one is staking rewards, and the other one is like burning. So it creates this nice flywheel where every new chain that joins the Elastic network. So I'm starting to see on Twitter, people are like, well, this doesn't make sense because revenue for ZKsync era is not super high. So like, it doesn't even really matter. But what people are missing the forest for the trees here, like every single chain that is a part of the Elastic network will be contributing fees to this. So pulling all of those fees in there for the on-chain revenue side is super important. And then the second part is these off-chain revenue piece. So this one is going to be the way I describe it, and I think is like a really easy example from Web2 world, is like we're essentially becoming a SaaS company in this regard. So right now, everyone knows that like Matter Labs, like we build chains for people. So we built abstract chain and SoFun chain, et cetera, and all that stuff, right? So we build chains. Institutions want us to build and run their chains for them. And in that process, because they're large banking institutions or financial institutions or whatever, they're used to paying like millions of dollars theoretically for this service. So let's say, this is all theoretical, don't quote me on this, but like, let's just say that there's a large institutional client that wants us to build and operate a chain for them. And then we sign a deal with them, and that deal is worth X amount of dollars. That will also flow off chain, because it's all off chain contracts and whatnot, to the governance entity. So it get deposited to the governance entity. That governance entity will then take those funds and then use it to buy ZK and keep the flywheel going. So the whole thesis behind this is basically like everything that we're doing, whether it's building new chains and charging like institutions or whatever for that, or it's new chains launching and they're generating fees and stuff like that, we're taking pieces of everything, sending it to governance, and then the governance entity, which then is like all of you guys are in charge of that, like our delegates, like everything is going to be run through governance. We'll be buying back ZK and then starting this flywheel, right? So that's basically the TLDR of like how everything is going to work. At least that's the thought process right now. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything like that, we highly, highly recommend going to the forum, voicing your opinions, letting us know. Obviously, this is not starting right now, but this is like part one of how we're thinking about everything, and we want everything to like move forward. So yeah, that's like a TLDR of everything. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Happy to chat with you guys about it. But also, this is going to be like an ongoing process. And yeah, if you have any comments, like leave it on the forum. We would love to hear it. Another thing I want to add here, just like 2 quick tie-ins, is one, with the ZK token staking program, pilot program having just passed, this actually ties in super nicely with this, because obviously staking rewards are going to be one of the vectors where the ZK token buybacks will flow into. And this is super exciting for governance, because working with Tally, and the token burn zip, exactly, that's coming very soon. But like in working with Tally for this, I think it's super exciting because everything is geared towards basically strengthening and decentralizing governance more. So with token staking, it's a very new, unique pilot to test out to see like if people, in order to earn rewards for your staking ZK, you need to delegate your votes to an active delegate that has voted in the last at least 2 of 5 proposals. Now that could change to get increased to 3 of 5 or 4 of 5 or whatever in the future. But right now we start with 2 of 5. And in doing that, users then help decentralize the network, reward good delegates that actually paying attention and are voting on things, increase voter participation, and then also they get to earn yield from it. So I think it's like a genius system that the governance system that Gov team, Shelby, Rafa, Alicia has designed with Tally. It's awesome. And it's just like, we want to make sure that ZK is basically the heart and center of the entire ZK network, and that governance is the one that is in control of everything, because that's always been the plan. And it's always been where we are. So yeah, exciting times, super exciting times. And yeah, happy to work with you guys as we push forward with all this.
Thanks, Stephen. That was great. Reactions, questions, concerns.
Just a quick reaction. We were taking a look with Tino on the post, and we were thinking, dude, this is great. It looks great, at least. And it's super timely in the sense of, where token value accrual is such a huge topic right now, and governance is, the only utility is not making quite sense anymore. So just seeing that you guys have thought this through, it's super encouraging. And yeah, I hope it succeeds. Let's not guide ourselves by crypto Twitter. But I guess the growth component and, if chains are going to be able to drive, sustainable transactions to make this work is kind of the question that's going on. Of course, I don't envision, having an answer for this, I guess. But curious to hear on your takes as well, Stephen, do you think those chains are going to be needing incentives? Are you guys working with them, just to make them grow as well and just, drive this flywheel forward? Otherwise, that's going to be the major bottleneck, I guess. Not sure about the licenses fees part. I guess that's a whole lot of runway, a whole lot of topic, but just maybe on the on-chain ones, maybe if you can, share some thoughts on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've seen on-chain is difficult, and also with Ignite, and from what we've seen in the past with like incentive programs and stuff like that, usually how these incentive programs work is that governance, we end up spending a ton of money with governance and we don't necessarily see long-lasting results. So ideally in the future, we would like to not run any of these kind of like gigantic token programs for DeFi or anything like that. That is not to say that we're not doing things to help grow the ecosystem. And we can see what those initiatives will be in the future. I mean, as of right now, like we do have the token community program going right now, and that's really more about like increasing visibility for ZKsync and for the Elastic Network, right? So I think that these kind of like grassroots efforts are worth it, but I really don't want to see like a 300 million ZK token program to grow DeFi on XYZ right at the moment. We'll see how things will shape out. Obviously, Interop's not even live yet, so we can't even like really estimate what those revenues would be. But I think that in our vision of the future, we believe in like an app chain centric future. So like where not necessarily all these new chains are going to be these big generalized chains. It's really going to be more so app chains, kind of like Gravity, for example, is just like they're a perp dex, right? But they're a chain, but their entire thing is just a perp dex, right? And as we get more and more of those, like I think that the interop fees and whatnot will only continue to accelerate on like an exponential curve. And then, so on-chain wise, we'll see what happens. Also, to be fair, sequencer fees, as we currently know of them, will also be included in this. As that's the thinking of right now. So essentially, for example, like Optimism charges every chain 10% sequencer fees to just be a part of the optimistic network. We're thinking of something similar to be a part of the Elastic Network, but these fees would then flow to that governance entity to buy back ZK and grow the ecosystem, right? So that's not finalized though, so like don't quote me exactly on that, but that's just like another component. There's multiple components for the on-chain revenue piece that we're thinking of, so that it can just grow. As the network grows, it will grow. I suspect though that the off-chain revenue fees will be much larger than the on-chain revenue fees, at least in the beginning or to like medium term, because these would be contracts that would be with large institutions, and those contracts would be quite large for like annual reoccurring revenue kind of thing that would then flow to the token. So but the thing with that is that obviously they're contracts and they are off chain, so everything will be pretty tightly under wraps until the funds hit the governance. And then once the funds hit governance, then everything will be transparent and on chain and done through contracts and everything like that, so everyone can see. But like obviously we can't, like, we're not going to be saying like, yeah, for these contracts that we're doing with XYZ company, we're charging XYZ. Like that's just, from a business sense, like that's just not going to happen. But once the funds do flow to governance and they get put on chain, then everyone will know and we'll be publishing reports and whatnot. So yeah, but it's a little, I have been getting questions about this revenue piece, and it is a bit difficult. I can't give any exact numbers, but the framework is set up so that it will grow exponentially over time as long as the Elastic Network keeps growing. So every new chain that we add will increase value to the token and also for the entire network. So that's the whole point of like, yeah, the flywheel. So yeah, hope that answers your question.
You can also correct me if I'm wrong. I think you might have even mentioned it, but like I think you were saying as well, like as new revenue sources kind of come up, so sequencer fees, for example, like you can kind of add more, like kind of plug in more streams into this program.
Yeah, exactly. Like the thought process is essentially like, as new revenue streams come up, whether it's on-chain or off-chain, we want to allocate more and more revenue to this new governance entity so that it can just continue buying ZK and using that for protocol development and ecosystem initiatives and burns as well. So then it's just kind of like this ongoing thing where you're taking Web2 business models, which is like the off-chain, which is basically like a SaaS business model, and applying it directly to on-chain and token value accrual. And then as this flywheel gets going, then more people get interested in the token, and then more people get interested in governance, because in order to earn yield, you have to participate in governance. So then it's kind of like this self-sustaining loop where we're trying to hit multiple vectors at the same time. So yeah, super exciting. It's very validating right now, because I feel like we've been working super hard for like a year and a half right now to build to this point, and it's all just like culminating right now. So it's very nice.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I think maybe another piece just to like take a few seconds to touch on here too is like what is meant by, or like what will governance be controlling here. And this is still kind of like Steven said, it's like part one, still being lots of details still being fleshed out. But yeah, I think Alex, you mentioned like one piece of it here, which is like determining allocation parameters. So like percentages of how much goes to, like token burn, or how much goes to staking, or how much goes to like the different kind of sources of, or yeah, kind of targets of where the revenue could go. So governance will likely play a big role in that. And then also for like burn, just setting burn rates or staking rewards or different things like that. So already kind of interesting to start thinking about the places that governance will play a role, or like what kind of parameters that governance will play a role in deciding for all of these different pieces as well.
Yeah.
Any other?
100%.
Oh yeah.
It's just like all of this is going to be run through governance, and all of this is going to be like using contracts and stuff like that. So it's all on chain, it's all verifiable, right? So whatever percentage staking yield there is, whatever percentage ZK burns there are, whatever fees are used for ecosystem initiatives, et cetera, like all of this is done through governance. So it's all you guys, right? So that's why, yeah, it's exciting. Love it.
Yeah. Any other reactions or questions to this at the moment? Cool. Okay. This, as Stephen also said, this is going to be an ongoing discussion. This was kind of just like an initial post. There was a ZKnomics post from a few months ago, but this is a little bit more of a beefy, fleshed out post here. So yeah, definitely, if you haven't taken a look at it yet, go take a look, take time to digest it, think through some of the other proposals, like we mentioned earlier, that are tying into this, that governance also played a huge role in, not only staking and, burn tying into this plan, but also that governance and like governance approved the infrastructure that enabled this to happen. If you guys remember TPP 8, enabling gateway, and also with ZIP 13 with the OS ETM, which enables the Atlas, enabled the Atlas upgrade. So this also wouldn't be possible, by the way, without you guys. So good job. Great. Then if there's no other comments on this, we can move on to some other updates. Just more of an FYI for you folks, there's currently on the forum, the Security Council and Guardians, they've published their 2024-2025 annual reports. They're linked here for review, and I'll also share them in the chat. So ZKsync Association is also working on a 1-year report, so you can expect that coming sometime soon as well, or within the next coming weeks or so. There you go. They're in the chat. And yeah, then that's actually it for ecosystem updates from our front. There were a few questions for you guys that I had, or just quick topics to talk about as well too. So the next delegate call or the next proposal review call is during Devconnect, which I assume most of us will be at or busy with. So the question for you, and I can also post something on the forum, or you guys can respond in the thread, this like agenda thread, if you would prefer to cancel it or move it. I don't know if anybody has initial reactions right now to that. Cancel or move?
Well, we are going to be there at Devconnect,
Yeah.
so it's going to be so difficult for us to be in a call. So
Yeah.
maybe move it. It makes sense.
Okay, cool. I'll take a look at it or do a little post on the forum, and try to figure out what the best plan was. Just wanted to see if anybody had any strong feelings here. Cool. Then the other thing to mention was for just a few things on Devconnect. So yeah, we have this thread that we started. I know I saw, SeedGov posted your guys' Gov Day events. Looking forward to those, signed up for those. I also posted something, some information about the Governance Geeks Hub. So the Governance Geeks Hub is a community hub that happens within the main Devconnect venue. If you were at DevCon last year, you'll be familiar with this concept, and maybe they did it at other hubs or events in the past, I'm not sure. But I posted some information here, also the agenda, a link to the agenda and info. I'm one person in like a little bit of a larger team who's helping coordinate this, but really, really excited to have folks come in and join this oasis of governance geeks that we're trying to create here. Oh no, this is a link that from the Devconnect site, which if you don't know this is super cool. This year they have like at one place where you can see the agendas for every single hub. So it's way easier to keep track of everything. But we are planning a full week of really fun, exciting events here, presentations, discussions, workshops, all related to governance. So come and join, come hang out if you want to. Also, how it was used last year was definitely just like the chill spot. Like if you just needed a break or if you needed to have a meeting with someone, the Gov Hub was kind of like the safe space to come do that. So come check that out. Really excited to see folks there and join. And yeah, if you have your own events, please feel free to add them to this. I will add the Casa ZK event once I find the link to this thread as well. So folks can sign up for that. I believe it's Wednesday morning. Yeah, I think the Casa ZK event is Wednesday morning. Great. And then that's actually all of the items to chat about. The last one I had here was just because it was something that was discussed on the last call and folks were really engaged with it. So I wanted to add it here as well in case anybody wanted to continue the discussion around, it was kind of like staking rewards, also mixed with delegate rewards, the discussion last week. But yeah, just wanted to note it here in case anyone had anything they wanted to add to that. Otherwise, also other topics, welcome. Any other items you guys want to chat about? Yeah, there were two, by the way. There were two Vitalik tweets in regards to ZKsync. Yeah, I was like, couldn't believe my eyes. I didn't think they were both on Saturday. I was like, whoa. Okay. Great. Then if there's nothing else, we can also call it. I will try to have this up, or we'll have notes and recording up tomorrow as always. Just a quick summary of action items to keep an eye out for just from what we talked about today. So keep an eye out for the voting window for TPP 13 and potentially also then ZIP 14. So TPP 13 is just assigning that minter role for the Gov Infra proposal, and then TPP 14 is the Gov updating the ZK token contract for the Gov burn function. Voting window should both be open by around, or definitely Wednesday for TPP 13, and around the same time for ZIP 14 next week. I know a lot of folks are going to be traveling and potentially already there. So yeah, just wanted to mention them both this week, in case it's easier for folks to take a look already this week, so it's easier to vote. So next week, because I know folks will be traveling. But yeah, so that's one thing. Keep an eye out for that. And then if you haven't read both the Ethereum liquidity access and also the proposed tokenomics model post, I would recommend reading both of them. The Ethereum liquidity piece is honestly just like, it's crazy reading. If you haven't read it, it's a really, really cool article. And the ZKnomics post that we just talked about as well with Stephen, would love to hear your guys's thoughts on that too as you digest it. This is also curious, not for this call, but in the future, like if folks see other examples, if they have like they think of other things that they've seen in other ecosystems that have worked well or that are similar or maybe very different to that, I'd be curious to like have ongoing discussion around in relation to the post that Alex shared the other day too. So yeah, some fun reading, or maybe for the plane, add it to your plane reading, your 20-hour flights to Buenos Aires. Yeah. Okay, then that's it for today. Thank you everyone for joining, and hope you all have a great rest of the week.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.